Tomatoes, the holy grail of the garden, but they can be a little tricky to grow, especially in this Colorado heat. But to the rescue, the Jefferson County Master Gardeners. With me now, I have Amy Bubar and EJ Bennett. So glad you're both here because these tomatoes, we love to have them, fresh grown tomatoes, but they're hard to grow in the summer heat, aren't they? Amy, how can we get around this?
Well, they can be a challenge. So nighttime temperatures for tomatoes have to be at least 55 degrees in order to produce pollen. And the trouble is daytime temperatures, if they reach 90 degrees by 10 a.m. as a general rule of thumb, those little blossoms that open that morning will often shrivel up and fall off.
Okay, good information. So EJ, what about light, afternoon light? How do we regulate that light?
So tomatoes need at least 6 hours a day of light. 8 would be better. But true, in the afternoon it can be very, very hot, very unpleasantly hot. And we sometimes, this is just a little trick that I do with my tomatoes. I take an umbrella. I know this seems funny.
No.
But I put my umbrella on top of my tomato plant.
Oh, that's a great idea.
And I get lovely afternoon shade.
Oh, that is a fantastic tip and so easy. And so if you're growing tomato plants, you need to have one of these, right? I mean, this is going to help it go up where it needs to be.
You do need a cage. For some small tomatoes, check the final size of your tomato plant. If it's quite a small plant, you can probably get away with a single stake. That plant there, you see, has a stake. And we have some, I can show you actually, we have some items that you could use to stake your plant with, and you might want to stake one of these. You can pick any one of these.
And so you're just going to wind it around the stake.
Yes,
it's going to stay next to the
put them right there
the
together.
thickest part of the
And
stem.
just give that a little twist. That's a purchased one from a garden store.
Sure.
Yep, perfect. That's it. Not too tight.
Not too tight.
You can also use a portion of pantyhose. You can just cut up a little piece of
Green.
pantyhose.
Where did you find green pantyhose?
And that, and just tie it gently.
Sure.
And we all have plenty of pantyhose that can go into the garden.
Yeah, we do.
So people also use sunshades. They can actually buy sunshade fabric if they want, if it gets really, really hot, if we're having a hot spell. But the umbrella technique works
It really
very
works.
well.
I think it's great. Amy, what about watering? Can we overwater our tomatoes?
Yes, it's possible to overwater, so you really want to follow a couple of main guidelines. First, try to water from the base of the plant. Excuse me. Overhead watering sometimes can take soil pathogens and splash them up onto the leaves, and that can promote early blight, where sometimes the lower leaves will turn yellow.
Okay. And what about fertilizing? Can we over-fertilize?
Yeah, well, tomatoes like to be fertilized, but it is possible to over-fertilize, especially the nitrogen component, which is that first number on your package of fertilizer. The nitrogen will make them nice and leafy and bushy and full, but at the sacrifice of your tomatoes.
Yeah.
So if you're going to fertilize this time of year, which is important, you probably want to have either a well-balanced fertilizer or one with a little extra phosphorus, which is represented by that second number on the bag.
You can see that on the bag. Okay. What about some other tips to keep them happy and producing?
Well, going back to the watering, you want to be consistent with your watering, not only at the base of the plant, but trying to avoid that wet, dry soil condition. That can often promote things like blossom end rot and that cracking that you sometimes see on tomatoes. And also, it's a good idea to use a mulch. And we like to say use a weed-free straw or even untreated grass clippings from your yard around the base, and that will help maintain the moisture.
Okay. EJ, what are some common mistakes people might make in trying to produce their tomatoes and keep them happy?
Sometimes we all like to get tomatoes in the ground early, and if you get the tomatoes in the ground, often, the Mother's Day, we hear that all the time, if the soil is cool and wet, it can actually stunt your tomatoes. The tomatoes need the soil temperature to be at least 55 degrees. So if you are excited to get in there in the beginning of May and you plant your tomato, it may not freeze, it may not hurt the plant that way, but if the soil's not warm enough, it's not going to take off and grow. So many of us wait till closer to June to actually get the tomatoes in the ground, and they do respond beautifully.
And come August.
Plentiful.
What about pruning, Amy? Is it important to prune our tomato plants?
Yeah, it's a great idea to prune tomato plants, especially if your plant starts to get a little bushy. You want to be able to have that airflow get in there and keep pests away. So what we like to say is take a look at your plant pretty closely, and where you have the stem juncture right here, there's usually a little tiny growth that sticks out, and all you have to do is prune right there and take that off.
Oh,
And be careful not
Easy.
to do it all over the plant because you don't want it to be so hot and exposed that you promote sun scald on your fruit.
Right. Oh, we're so excited for August tomatoes. The love 'em, the fruit, the holy grail. All right, for a fact sheet on troubleshooting tomato problems, you can call the Jefferson County Master Gardeners. The number is 303-271-6620. They can answer any other planting, gardening, or lawn questions, or better yet, you can check them out online at jeffcoextension.org. Thank you to EJ and Amy.